And apparently we are live. It says we're live, so I'm going with that. Welcome, people of the internets. If you are here live, if you're listening on the replay, welcome to you also to PFPTV number 6, I think it is, with Christine Langdon. Christine, welcome. Kia ora. Who are you? What are you doing?
I'm here in Wellington. Beautiful day, and looking forward to a good chat with you, talking about purpose.
I reckon. So for those people who are maybe not from New Zealand, or if they're from New Zealand and have been living under a rock and haven't discovered the awesomeness that you are all about, who are you? What do you do?
The main thing that I do is I have a social enterprise which I co-founded. It's called the Good Registry, and it's a platform where people give donations instead of gifts. So the whole idea is that we're about reducing waste, all of the wasted money and planet's resources that go into gifts that might never get used. So particularly things like Secret Santas and corporate gifts and some of the stuff that gets given and broken at children's birthday parties, and having all of that money go to good causes instead. We've got 65 charity partners, and people can choose where they want their money to go instead of on the things that they might have received instead.
Fantastic. That is, it's one of those ideas that you sort of just go, why didn't I think of that? Because I know from my own experience, I remember one year I was general manager for a firm of surveyors and engineers, and I think it was the Auckland marketing manager sent me an email to say, hey, you need to organise the Christmas gifts for all the clients in the Canterbury region. And I was like, cool, send me a list of those people and I'll work it out. She said, no, there is no list. And I spent about 3 days trying to find the names of everyone that we'd work with. And then I was like, okay, what are we going to send them? And it's like, oh, well, we'll send them some wine. And it's like, but we don't know if they like red or white. So how's that going to work? And then what wine do we get? And in the end, I said to my boss at the time, I said, you know what? I think we just make a donation to charity, and we'll send them all an email and say, hey, we've made a donation to charity. So genius idea. What was like the moment that you realized that it should be a thing for you?
There were heaps of moments that added up to it. Part of it was a similar moment to the one that you just described. So my previous role was as the community manager for Z Energy, and Z's very committed to giving back in the community, and had started to move in that direction with corporate gifts, and had made the same decision in the last year that I was there to make a donation on behalf of corporate customers instead of doing gifts. And as a team, we were trying to work out which charities to give to and trying to figure out which charities our customers cared about the most and how to divvy up the money that we had between those charities. And then we went out and told the customers who we had given money to on their behalf. And the insight that I had around that is it would just be so much nicer if the customer could actually do that gifting themselves, and then they would know that the money is going to the charity that they care about. So what the Good Registry enables is the corporate, or anybody, you or me, to send a gift card to the recipient, the customer or whoever, and have the customer jump onto our website and have a look at our charity partners, learn about those charities, maybe find out about charities that they don't know anything about, or maybe give to the charity that they always support, or maybe split a voucher between lots of different causes, and get the joy of giving themselves, and through that amplify the impact, because once somebody has had the experience of making the donation through us, they may then think about doing it for their own gifting. Whereas if the corporate just says, we made a donation on your behalf, it's done. And the corporate customer doesn't get any experience in that. And they're unlikely to think, oh yeah, we'll do the same for our customers as well. And I'd heard feedback from people who had received messages from corporates that instead of giving their nice corporate gift this year, the corporate had made a donation on their behalf, and felt like they'd missed out on something in that. So hopefully with the Good Registry, people don't feel like they're missing out because they're still getting the opportunity to do the giving, and we know that people get lots of joy from giving. It's one of the things that we all need for our well-being.
Massively so. There was I think I might have mentioned this before on my podcast, but it kind of annoys me a little bit because the study was done in a Coca-Cola office in Madrid, and I just kind of like, I don't know, Coca-Cola, discuss. That's a whole other podcast. But they did a study where they took a group they kind of split the office into two groups, and one group was told to do a kind of random act of kindness or do as much pro-social behavior as they could. So offering to make someone a coffee, holding a door, like tiny things, but up to sort of really big things like, hey, can I help you with this project, what have you. And then they studied the two groups, and the groups who were offering to help their colleagues became happier and more engaged. But what they hadn't reckoned on was that the control group, who kind of didn't know that this was a thing, they also became happier and more engaged, but they also started doing more pro-social activities themselves. And I guess the essence of it is that doing good is contagious. And I love how you've kind of baked that into the business model, where it's like, do good instead of buying some cheap rubbish that the person actually doesn't want or need, particularly Secret Santa. It's just like, oh, thank you so much. You know me so well. You've bought me something that I don't need, I don't like, I didn't want, and it's just going to go into the bin in 2 days' time. But also that element of letting the customer choose. How are Kiwis kind of interacting? Are you seeing like a spread between social versus environmental causes that people are preferring? Like because I presume you're getting some good insight as to what's happening in the do good sector in that regard as well.
Yeah, we were really conscious in choosing the charity partners that we had to give people that breadth. It was important to us that if somebody was choosing to have money go to a charity instead of to receive something for themselves, that they could feel a connection to the charity that they were giving to. So we've got charities that look after the well-being of children and old people and the environment. We've got charities that look after animals, and then lots of different charities related to different health conditions and health research. So right across the spectrum, we definitely see a lot of people wanting to give to the charities that look after the well-being of children, and also looking after the well-being of people who have less in our community. So with the city missions, we partnered with all 3 city missions at the end of last year, partly off the back of COVID-19. There was this real sense that people had seen that they had enough while they were locked up in their houses for a good chunk of last year. And meanwhile, there's this sector of New Zealand that just doesn't have enough. And it seemed ridiculous, I think, for people to be receiving more gifts for themselves at Christmas when that money could be helping people in real need. So yeah, there's I think people wanting to use the opportunity to have money that could have gone on something they didn't need to have it go to something that somebody does need. We have a lot of children use the Good Registry for birthdays, and children in particular like to give to other charities that look after other children who are less fortunate than themselves, so Big Buddy and Kids Can and that kind of thing. And then the environmental charities are really big as well. Obviously, every gift through the Good Registry is an environmentally friendly gift because it's the money going to good causes instead of on stuff that we don't need. We're not stealing from the planet from the future for gifts through the Good Registry. And it's really cool when you kind of see that layered upon with the money then going to environmental causes as well. Quite often we'll see somebody come on with a gift card for $50 and split it between 5 different environmental charities, and clearly environment is their thing. And sometimes we'll see somebody come on and give it all to one charity, or split it between, something for the children and something for the environment and something for the animals. So different people care about different things, and that's when we're trying to meet people where they're at to make sure that you can have the joy from giving to a charity that you care about, not be forced to have the money go to something that doesn't really sing.
That you don't really care about. Yeah, that's a really neat business model. And that's also super inspiring to hear kids giving to kids not doing as well as they are. That kind of just makes me feel a little bit hopeful. Actually, this is shameless plug for my daughter. We were in town the other day, and there was a homeless guy on the street in the CBD in Christchurch, and he was like, "You've got any change?" And I'm, I feel like I'm like the Queen. I never have any cash on me. I'm like, "Sorry, mate." And we walked away, and my daughter was like, "Oh, why does that man need money?" And I said, "Well, it's complex, but he might be homeless. He might just be struggling. It's been a tough year. So a lot of people are in bad times." And she said, "Oh, well, you've got no money?" I said, "No." And she said, "Well, I've got some crackers in my bag. Can I give him my crackers?" And I was like, "Really?" So because we were out for a day trip around town, and she had some little snack pack. And she was like, "Can I go and give them to him?" And I was like, "That would be so good." Yeah, and I think this is where I'm filled with hope for the future, is that it's it is the human condition to want to look after those around you and do good. It's just that we've kind of been in a brief period for a couple hundred years, maybe, where we've kind of lost sight of that.
We've kind of trained that human condition out of children, haven't we? Because a lot of adults say to me, "Oh, well, surely children wouldn't want to donate money instead of receiving birthday gifts," and that's because that was our experience of growing up, and that was what we learned to expect, and now that's what we're paying forward to children of the future. But we've got a young girl that we're actually just talking to today, who she's 11.
Wow.
She used the Good Registry for the first time for her 8th birthday. She used it for her 9th birthday, her 10th birthday, her 11th birthday. She's given her birthday money to Project Jonah, to the Jane Goodall Foundation, to another of our environmental charities. It might have been Sustainable Coastlines, and then last year to the Auckland City Mission.
Wow. So she's like that's super. It's just genuinely inspiring to hear kids, because I think a lot of people kind of go, "Oh, kids of today, they're just so entitled and it's all about them." And it's like, well, maybe look at yourself. Yeah, if your kids are entitled and like that, well, you're the parent. Or I think that's super cool.
And we're not saying, I mean, it's everyone's choice what matters to them.
Totally.
And one of the things that we do encourage, if children or parents are looking at the Good Registry for children, is it doesn't have to be all or nothing. And that applies to adults for weddings and that kind of thing as well. It's about having the option. It's about saying, well, maybe mum and dad will give you one gift that is actually something that you need and that you want, and hopefully ethically and sustainably purchased is a good thing too. And what you won't get is a whole lot of stuff from the warehouse that all of the children who are coming to your party, that their parents had to go and buy the night before. And that there wasn't any kind of real love or meaning to those gifts. Anyway, research shows a lot of them will end up broken and in the landfill within 3 months.
Wow, that's a frightening statistic. And I think it's interesting when you look at the marketing done to little kids, and some of the stuff, like my daughter had these LOL dolls, like these little plastic dolls. I mean, it's genius, the marketing. It's, you got to get them all, and there's literally like 2,000 different dolls and combinations of dolls that you can get. And so for a brief period, every birthday, it's like, I want one, from you, and then all her friends would buy her one. And so she ends up with 1,000 of these plastic dolls when there's bits all over the house. And and it came in this awful plastic wrapping that was completely, unrecyclable. It's such a cool solution. So what was the moment when you were like, so you're working at Z, head of community sort of engagement and giving, community, like, what was there one moment, or had you seen this somewhere else, or like, how did it start?
Lots of things adding up. So I actually had left Z before having the idea for the Good Registry. I loved Z as a company to work for, and also had a sense that I wanted to do something that I would shape and create myself. And working within a corporate, there's the corporate boundaries, I guess, to work within. And I also knew that I was so comfortable at Z, and I had so much going on that I wasn't going to do anything new until I created some space in my life to do that. So I left work without a plan, and spent time thinking about what was really important to me. I knew that I did want to start some kind of social impact business or venture, but I didn't quite know what that was going to be. And it started to take shape. Basically, I knew that I wanted a way to contribute. I knew that I wanted to give others a way to contribute, because I knew that I got joy from contribution. While I was at Z, and for a few years prior, I had been teaching yoga in prison, and that was just thing that I looked forward to the most every week, was the chance to be there with the women and to be really face to face with women who deserved a chance and appreciated somebody coming in and believing in them and giving them a chance to do something different. And so I wanted ways to give like that made me feel good about what I was doing, and wanted to give other people that experience too somehow. And I also wanted a way to give that didn't mean that we had to draw into our bank accounts or our wallets, but use money that we were already spending on something that wasn't being well used. And I had a birthday and I received more things that I didn't need and thought, I just wish I hadn't been given this stuff. And I actually did take, in particular, a pair of gloves that I had been given down and gave them to a homeless person on Courtney Place in Wellington, and thought, it would just be better if the money had just gone straight to supporting people rather than all of the everything that went into buying and making this pair of gloves. And it was from my mother, who isn't terribly mobile, and she had to get herself into town and buy gloves and get home and pack and wrap and everything else. And I was also decluttering the house and found lots of stuff in the house at that time that I had never thrown out and never used either, that I'd been given as gifts, and just wished that there had been a better option for people. And it's really hard to say to people, I don't want anything, because then people, it's kind of like this strange gift poker. They feel like they have to give you something.
I know. It's bizarre, isn't it? You explicitly say,
tell them what you wanted.
I know. I'm pretty sure for my daughter's,
say what you want. And
I'm pretty sure for my daughter's 5th birthday, like, we explicitly said no gifts. Like, she does not need anything. Everyone came with a big gift. It's like, it's like, I don't know, there needs to be some law that if someone explicitly says no gifts, it actually, we're not being, don't get me anything, wink wink. It's like, no, actually I don't need anything. We're pretty good as a family. Like at Christmas time, it's pretty much, we buy a few things for our daughter, but the adults just go, you're getting nothing. We should obviously be using the good registry. I'll make sure that we get on that one. But yeah, just the mental stress that it creates on both sides. Like you say, for the person, it's mother's, well, I'll get my mum something on and my wife something on the platform for Mother's Day. Hint hint, rest of you listening, this is your early warning reminder. You've got 2 days to sort out a gift for mum, so get on the good registry. Here we go, goodregistry.com. Get your Mother's Day presents hooked up. The mental anxiety that it creates for the present buyer, because like, what shall I get Christine? What did I get her last year? Has she got one of these? Does she like these? Is it from the right shop? Does she, I know Christine's a very ethical person, so should I buy it from, all those, the mental taxation that incurs. But then also, like you say, for the gift receiver going, thanks so much. Now what do I do with this? It's, I don't know, maybe there's a study for some smart person at university to work out the mental stress caused by birthdays, regardless of your own anxiety of getting a year older.
And I have seen various bits of research around the stress that gift giving puts on people, and also the amount of gifts that go to landfill. Everybody receives at least 3 gifts a year that they never use.
Just go straight out.
On average, they're worth about $25 to $30 each. And if we just replaced for 5 million New Zealanders 3 gifts per person, that would be 15 million fewer things in the world. And if every one of those gifts was worth $10, then you could put a 0 on the end of that, and that could be money going to good, instead of the Secret Santa gifts, for example, that just get left on the table at the end of the night 100%. And go straight to landfill.
It's,
and there's the environmental impact of that. And then, we're also becoming increasingly aware of the social impact of when you're buying those cheap things, those cheap gifts, the cheap chocolates, of the working conditions in the production line for those
double whammy.
The child, a gift that some other child was working, child labor was involved in.
And exactly that's a big thing I reflect on, with a young daughter. It's like, which of these gifts that you've just got from your friend was made by a girl your age in maybe Southeast Asia or in Africa or wherever you. It's quite sobering when you really do think about that stuff. Where do you think, where did Secret Santa come from? I'm guessing this is from our compadres in the good old US of A. It must be. It must be, and I'm going to blame it on them. It must be, but it's a relatively new thing, I think, isn't it? I certainly don't remember my parents kind of talking about Secret Santa, and I don't remember having it in the first few years of me working in sort of big companies. We'd have a Christmas party, but there was no real. I'm pretty sure, maybe, I don't know. I've definitely, the first time I encountered it was in New Zealand, and I was kind of like, "What do you mean, Secret Santa? What, one of us dresses up as Santa?" It's like, no, you have to go and buy something. Okay, that's random. I have to buy something for someone that I don't know who I'm buying for. It's like, okay, so I'll just buy some I'll buy the cheapest bit of crap that I can find for $5.
Well, the most inappropriate piece of crap, because it's going to be somehow funny, despite the fact somebody is inevitably going to end up offended because they don't understand why.
Understand your humour.
Yeah. I when I was doing that clean out of the house that helped prompt the idea for the Good Registry, there was a drawer full of Secret Santa type gifts of varying levels of appropriateness and inappropriateness, which I'd kept thinking maybe I'd re-gift as Secret Santa gifts one day, but they didn't even feel like gifts I'd want to give to anyone else's Secret Santa.
Crazy. So prison yoga, how did you get into that? Like, that's a story. That's a story to unpack in itself. Is this?
I guess it's just kind of part of that journey that I was on of discovering that contribution feels really good. I had left another job where I'd decided that I was in an awesome job, and nevertheless it would be a good thing to leave just to open up more space for new opportunities in my life. And one of those new opportunities was going and doing teacher training for yoga. And the reason that I did the yoga teacher training was not that I wanted to be a yoga teacher, but because I wanted to have a more committed practice of yoga in my life, because I just know that it feels really good when you do it every day. And I used to prioritize lots of other things instead of yoga. I was very much a yes person to whatever came along on the day, not wanting to miss out on anything. So that I'll go to yoga teacher training and that'll get me doing yoga every day. And at the end of the program, they wanted to know what we were going to do with our teaching. And like I said, I'd not planned to do any, but I had got to a stage where I thought, well, what I'd like to do is give my teaching away. And I'd like to give it to women and to disadvantaged women. And in another previous life as a journalist, something I had encountered was being in prison, interviewing prisoners and seeing the humanity in prisoners and the chance that they deserved. And so, that was what I was drawn to, was there are women in prison who deserve this opportunity to experience yoga, so why don't I do that? And I taught probably for 4 or 5 years, I can't quite remember how long, in the Arohata Women's Prison in Wellington here.
And what sort of impact did you see in terms of development and changes within the group that you were working with?
I saw daily impacts, so there was some long-term stuff of women who were introducing their own practice in their cells, and that was really helping to ground them and to make them more present. And then just, in a standard practice, there were things like they don't normally get touched. And for me to go and, do a gentle hands-on adjustment, put my hands on their back, you could just see their bodies soften into that. I remember one of the prisoners saying to me at the end of one of the classes, she's like, "Miss, I just never felt so good."
Wow.
And I would also look for opportunities to acknowledge them when they had done a good practice, and you would just see the chest lift and blow come in. And one of my insights was that these women possibly right from childhood had not had positive reinforcement, probably for quite some time, if ever. And to just receive the positive reinforcement was as important as what might be what asana they might be doing.
Totally. I think it's the whole, I mean, from all the sort of research work I've done on purpose, you look at what's the worst thing we can do to a human is solitary confinement. Remove human contact, connection, the ability to dialogue, to have meaningful interaction with another human. That's the harshest. I'd argue that that's harsher than having a death penalty, because that's, for what we know, that's kind of done. Not that I'm advocating the death penalty, but you know what I mean? It's like long-term solitary confinement is the worst thing that you can do to another human. And I think there's been some, I read or watched a couple of documentaries on like the justice system in the Scandinavian countries, where it's much more about that kind of restorative justice, where they recognize that actually, I think there's a famous prison, I think it's in Norway, where there's no prison gates. They live in houses and they're kind of taught to cook. They have to kind of self-manage. There's like one prison guard, but he's kind of more of a mindset coach. And their recidivism rate is the lowest in the world. Whereas the US and I think the UK has some of the highest recidivism rates, because we're just going to treat you, because we think you're a piece of shit. We're going to throw you in prison. We're going to, just be harsh on you, which I think it's interesting that, yeah, there's a natural, partly, I guess, maybe it's upbringing. There's a part of it that's like, well, yeah, you have done bad. You do need to be punished, and there is an element of, you have to be told that you don't do that again. But equally, it's like, well, why did you do the bad? And let's get to the heart of that. And I do think there's so much more that could be done in terms of people who've just like, they've made one bad mistake and they've come from a intergenerational background of, this is all I know. I don't know of anything else. And I've made one bad mistake and I've ended up on the wrong path. But innately, I was listening to, everyone's going to be bored of me saying this, I was listening to the Joe Rogan podcast again this week. And there was a US, his guy, he was incarcerated in the US, and he kind of felt that he'd been wrongly incarcerated. I think it was on like a 3 strikes rule. So he was illiterate, but he took it upon himself to learn to read and write. And then he got a law degree whilst in university, and then appealed his case and defended his own case. And he was released. And you kind of go, well, people can turn themselves around, if given the right incentive, opportunity, and I guess a little bit of purpose in their life,
And these are people who have just got so much hurt inside from the start that they've had in life, and they are not bad people. And, I touched on one of the things that drew me towards volunteering in prison was having visited prisons as a journalist. And one of those experiences was I was working in New York, and I went into Sing Sing prison, where they had people who were in there in high security training the guide dogs for the blind.
Oh, wow.
And one of the men that I spoke to was in there for murder. And what he had done was, in kind of like a street brawl, he had delivered a death punch. He hadn't set out to kill someone. He had been triggered, and he lashed out. And, we have had an upbringing which hopefully gives us the mechanisms to stop ourselves from getting beyond angry to deliver a death punch. But for him, he'd grown up in a really tough, really difficult environment, and when he was triggered, he delivered a punch, and that doesn't make him a person who doesn't deserve any love. And to see him with his guide dog and all of, just his beautiful, loving nature, just for me reinforced that these are human beings who have done bad things, not bad people, and definitely people who deserve the chance to have some love and some connection. And for them, it was love and connection from a guide dog. It was beautiful.
Yeah. And I think that's, I guess one of the movies that would bring that to life is that Falling Down. Have you seen that movie? What's the guy? No. I can't remember the name of the actor now. It's like this guy, he's in LA, he's stuck in traffic. The traffic's, stuffed. So he's had enough, like it's too hot. So he gets out of his car and he walks to a McDonald's, and the clock ticks to 10:01, and he gets to the counter. He's like, hey, can I get a McBreakfast? And the guy's like, I'm sorry, sir, we stopped serving at 10. And he's like, I can see the McBreakfast. Like, can you just give me it's like a seemingly rational guy, white collar worker on his way to work. Within 45 minutes of the movie, he's got a gun and he's on a rampage. And you can see, even for, smart people from decent backgrounds, like, there's some days you're getting close to a point. And I guess for most of us, hopefully it's no worse than just you get a bit shouty at the kids because you're a bit stressed and tired. But yeah, you look at you've seemingly got no opportunity in front of you. You've got some horrendous, traumas in your background, in your life. You have a really bad day. You're on the absolute bones of your ass. Yeah, you can. I think you have to have empathy to understand the level of stress you could easily slip into, given a bunch of co-factors that can be really making your life way shitter than most people can even begin to imagine.
Yeah, what about
so what was New York like?
Kind of every day of their life has been a shit day, which is possible.
And that piles up. Yeah, it's that'll build up and build up and build up. So how long were you in New York for?
I was working for the Dominion Post at the time, and it was a 6-month secondment to the New York Post.
Wow. And had they had a Kiwi there before? Were they like, who are you? Why do you talk funny? Tell us about New Zealand.
Very welcoming and friendly, and I'm very excited to have a Kiwi there who they could show around the town and throw in the deep end on a few things.
Nice. They were like, hey, New Zealand, is that down the road from New York? Like, where are you from? Terrible New York accent. I've been to New York once, and I was went to a nightclub. I was only there for the weekend. I was doing some training in Paoli in Pennsylvania. So we got a train down or up to New York. And I'll never forget, we left this nightclub about 3 a.m. in the morning, and there was a traffic jam, and all the cabbies just honking their horns. And it's like, literally, this is the city that never sleeps. This is insane. Yeah. It's like, how can there be a traffic jam at 3 a.m. in the morning on a Sunday morning? This is insane. Yeah. And so what?
Always things going on. An incredible experience and an incredible way to see a city working for a newspaper like that. Where,
you'd have seen every part of the city. Parts of the city that most New Yorkers don't get to see.
Yeah, from the absolute high life, because I was still earning New Zealand dollars, I would, and it was about, the New Zealand dollar was worth about 40 cents to the American. I decided the only way to enjoy New York was to try and enjoy as much of it as possible for free. So I would go up to the team on the page 6 gossip page desk at the end of each day and say, what parties have you been invited to? And I'd have a stack like this high, and they'd go, well, we're going to this one and this one. You just go through that pile and see what you want. So parties like I'd never seen before in terms, and the extravagance was again quite looking back on it now. I'm a changed person, I would walk into those parties now and have a very different perspective to what I had been, but at those days I loved them really bad.
So how old were you when you were over in New York?
Gosh, I think it was about 30-ish.
Yeah, so that's cool. Yeah, party time,
Yeah.
Overseas in New York. So did you go to Trump Tower? Did you get to a party there?
I don't think I did. No.
That would be one for the memoirs. Yeah. But I think it's all part of the journey, though, isn't it? I mean, if I look back at my 30-year-old self, it's like, show me the good time party. Yeah, like carbon what? Like, who cares? It's like, I'm just here for a good time. That's what life's about, having a good time, people. Like, get on with it.
Where you start to realize that there's even though you're having all of these amazing experiences and so blessed in life, that it just feels like there's something missing.
Yeah, it's like, I think for me, I was a traveling sales rep, and I'd get to go to all these conferences overseas, and looking back, you start to realize how entitled you are when you're kind of going, why is the towel not being made into a teddy bear shape on my bed? Like, how? Get me the concierge. It's like, really? Once you've stayed in a 5-star hotel, I mean, flown business class, you're ruined, because it's like, well, what next? And that is the big problem with that sort of hedonic treadmill, is that you want the next, but the next is not necessarily achievable for you. So what was the beginning of the turning point of sort of glitzy gossip girl party Christine? Was there a specific moment, or was it a longer sort of cascade of I don't feel so good doing this stuff, maybe I could do something a bit more meaningful?
So there was a shift where I went. So I left journalism, and journalism was a fun, fantastic career, and it was a real kind of party career. Left journalism and started, as I went into communications, to really be drawn towards doing social good communications. So there was some conscious decisions starting to come in, which maybe surprised me, like taking a pay cut to go and work for a not-for-profit. So I went to the Red Cross to work, and I remember thinking, wow, I'm actually taking a pay cut, because for the first time in my life, I'm going to get to do work that really is about contributing back. So that started to come in there, and then I went into a communications consultancy, and the communications consultancy that I was part of, one of the areas of specialty was behaviour change social marketing campaigns. That was with Tracy Bridges, who is one of my co-founders at the Good Registry. So that was really her practice, and I always wanted to be working on Tracy's projects with her around things like family violence and alcohol use and that kind of thing. And then just saw myself increasingly being drawn to choosing work where there was a social benefit. And interestingly, the environmental focus has really evolved over the last few years since giving up work, because I used to be, I literally had too much money, and I would buy things because I could, and thought, well, why wouldn't I buy this because I can afford it? And then not having money made me realize how little I needed, and how much of what I was buying was having an absolutely unnecessary environmental impact, you know, for a thing that I might have worn once or twice. And even when we set up the Good Registry, it was more about making a community contribution than an environmental contribution. But I'm right at the other end of the spectrum now. For me, it's much more about the nonsense of trashing this planet that we've got, this amazing planet that we've got, so we can have things that we don't need. I just don't get it.
It's like almost, I think it's better than Einstein's definition of insanity, isn't it? You know, repeating the same. I guess it kind of ties into it, repeating the same thing and expecting a different result. It's like, well, maybe if I buy this thing, I'll be happier. And it turns out I'm not happier. I'll try it again. I'll try a bigger thing. I'll try a more expensive thing. I think if you try to explain to an alien life form, yes, well, once every year we celebrate the day that this person was born, and we buy them stuff that they don't want or need. But if you love them, why would you do that? I don't know. And it's destroying the planet that you all inhabit. Yes, why would you do that? I don't know. Okay, well, I'll just keep on doing it then. Yeah, when you sort of break it down, I think that's part of the problem, though. Like you say, we've mentioned a couple of times, it's just stuff that we've always done, seemingly always done. Whereas we haven't always done that.
With love, you know, it's kind of like,
totally.
I do remember kind of like looking at my pile of gifts at Christmas and my brother's pile of gifts, and using that to assess whether we were both loved equally.
Obviously, and who got the most?
Shouldn't go into
it. Are you over it yet? Are you all good? You and your brother talking?
I'm over it yet. But, you know, I do think that it's important to have ways to show that we care for each other, but destroying the planet that our future generation needs is no way to show our kids or anybody that we care.
It seems a pretty dumb way. Yeah. I lived with a family in Australia for a year. So I left the UK for my first sort of sojourn. I think it's about 2001-ish. It's like 20 odd years ago now. It's just a blur of dates, but it was around about then. And I saw the first Christmas there. Two things that I thought were really cool that I've tried to get going here, but they hasn't panned out yet. The first thing is they wrapped all the Christmas presents, which they didn't have many, but they wrapped them in newspaper. Because it's like it's recyclable, and we've got newspaper here. So why go and buy some shiny wrapping paper that goes in the landfill? Cool. And the other thing I thought was really, really cool, because it was in Brisbane, so it's kind of a tropical environment. You know, why would you have a pine Christmas tree, and where do you get one anyway? So they had some kind of yucca or tropical plant that was just in the garden that they would bring into the house, and they decorate it. And I'm just like, I love this. It's such a cool vibe. And it was way more fun. It's like, you know, because you'd look at the newspaper articles, and you could put a bit of thought on, you know, the boys got the sports kind of paper, you know, the dad got the, you know, the sort of the financial one that he was interested in, you know. It's like, well, you've put some thought into it. And it's like, I kind of don't care what the wrapping paper looks like. It's the, you know, and they were typically, they weren't giving, you know, hundreds of gifts. It was like, you know, I think they gave me an Australian rugby shirt because I'd been living there for a couple of months. Like, oh, well, thanks. You know, I'm part of the team now. You know, I've still got it.
And we can just still be creative and show people that we care, and actually have more fun by thinking outside the square. I did a year of buying nothing new once. I actually still do, by the way, give people a small number of people gifts, and they are very thoughtfully chosen, as well as giving people good gift cards. And I do, you know, always use recycled paper or brown paper for the gift wrapping that I do.
Nice.
But anyway, I did a year of buying nothing new when I did not give people gifts. And my solution that year was to make everybody a gift card, which offered them some kind of experience. So we are going to go and play golf together. We are going to go out, you know. So it was all thinking about the person and what that person liked to do, and doing an experience with that person. And that's, you know,
nice
quality time with the person that you care about, and no waste.
Nice. My sister-in-law is actually pretty good at that. She hasn't got kids, so she'll do that for our daughter. She'll say, hey, you know, for your Christmas present or your birthday present, you know, you get a day out with Auntie Melissa, and we can go. She's got a friend who's got some horses, so we'll go pony riding. We'll go to the swimming pools. Yeah, it's again, it's that human connection. You know, you have more enjoyment and more memories out of the experience of a day out with someone than you will for some cheap plastic tap that's going to go in landfill. We've got a few people on the live stream, so come on, people, your chance to ask Christine some questions. I'd really be keen to know if someone's listening in live, what's the worst gift you've ever given or received? I think that would be an interest. And if you're listening after this, put it in the comments somewhere or message me. I don't know, we'll flush it out.
I've got a picture here of one of my worst gifts.
Let's go. Which one? You got it hanging up. You're gonna name and shame.
I might have put it upstairs. I don't have it handy. But basically, one of the gifts that was an inspiration for the Good Registry was my grandmother, bless her, liked to give, you know, kind of homemade gifts that she had bought at craft fairs or something like that. And she gave me this funny lacy dolly thing one year when I was in my 20s. And I loved my grandmother, and I did not have the heart to throw it away. And I was on holiday once when there was one of the major earthquakes in Wellington, and some friends came round to check out my house, and they sent me a message going, it's okay, everything's in order, apart from this horrific thing that you found in your bedroom, and sent a photo of them with this crazy looking doll. I was like, it's got to go.
You've been reverse burgled.
Because it was my grandmother, who's no longer here in the world with us. So it was a part of her. And a wonderful suggestion that a friend made was to take a photograph of it. And then I was free to part with it. So I have this pretty cool photograph of the pretty weird doll, and someone, maybe hopefully a child, or, you know, someone who will appreciate a funny lacy weird homemade doll has it now, or maybe it's in landfill, which is a shame, but I guess that's where it was going to end up someday.
Taking photos of things, that's a really, I did that I'd be about, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago now. I had to go because my mum and dad were divorced. My mum was moving out of the sort of the family home, and so there was a whole lot of, I mean, there was stuff of mine that my mum and dad had kept from when I was like born, like a whole heap of stuff. You know, like pretty much every school report and a whole lot of school books and all the rest of it. And I was like, I'm not, you know, I can't pay, I can't pay, and B, what is the carbon footprint of shipping this crap to my house to put in my attic space? And so I did that. I had a whole lot of old rugby shirts from when I was little, you know, clearly aren't going to fit me now. So yeah, I made sure I took a photo of everything that I thought I might want to have. And there was a massive sense of release, because at the time I was like, it would be quite cool to have my rugby shirt, my first ever rugby shirt from when I was like 4 or 5. Like, that's quite a cool keepsake at some level. But where am I going to put it? So yeah, I took photos of everything, and then I went through all my old school notebooks. I even had like all my history degree notes and stuff like that. And I just kind of kept one thing from each year. So I've had like, you know, 10 little bits, and they all fitted into everything that I wanted to keep. I kept a few of the bigger rugby shirts that had a bit more sentimental value, but pretty much I got everything into one small backpack. And I'm like, I'm happy putting that in my luggage and taking that. But we probably did like 4 trips to the dump. You know, it's insane. But I think you do need to have, I think it's good to have some connection to your sort of ancestry and, you know, or your history and where you've come from. But like you say, if it's got a bit of depth and meaning to it, rather than, you know, another piece of tap that I got from great auntie or great uncle, whoever.
Yeah, and it does feel good to have a home with less in it. And
totally.
We do get stuck in holding on to things because people gave them to us, regardless of whether we're ever going to use
Yep.
them, or
And
you know, unless they bring us great embarrassment because they're
yeah, that's straight out.
yeah, and there are ways to part with things, and unfortunately it might still mean those things are going to end up in landfill. The wonderful thing is there's so much happening at the moment in the world of reuse, including reuse of fabrics and stuff like that. For fabrics are now being used to make roads and all kinds of
Yeah, there's some interesting stuff happening. I remember actually there's an interesting book. I can't remember the lady's name. I'll put it in the comments below or show notes wherever this is out. But she was a British lady married to a British guy, and he got this dream job to go and work at Lego in Denmark in their corporate headquarters, which in and of itself, this is a shout out to Mr. John Henderson, my geography school teacher from the UK doing my A-levels. The reason why the headquarters of Lego is where it is, it defies all logic from a geographic location, because it's not close to water, it wasn't close to any major infrastructure. It was like the worst place you could put a manufacturing plant, but it was where the founder of Lego lived, and he's like, I just want to build it in my hometown. So there you go, that's a fact you can have for any trivia nights. But he got this dream job, and she was a journalist, and she was kind of like, well, I don't speak Danish. I'm probably going to really struggle to get a job as a journalist in Denmark. What can I do? And so she did some research and realized that like year on year, the Danish are ranked as one of the happiest nations on the planet. And so she thought, well, I know what I'll do. I'll research and write a book on why the Danish people are so happy. And so she got the book commissioned before she went, so she was all set up. Anyway, it's a really, really interesting book. And one of the things that really stood out for me, I think each chapter is like one of the pillars that contributes towards Danish happiness. And one of them, and I thought this is kind of like just really interesting to ponder on, is the whole Scandinavian furniture, IKEA, thing is based on the heritage that a lot of Scandinavian furniture is wooden, natural materials, handcrafted, hand carved, that were typically handed down from generation to generation. And because of the Scandinavian, I guess, design style hadn't really changed massively throughout that period. And so one of the things she researched and discovered is that sense of energy that an old physical object can bring to a room, but also just the fact that in a life that is fragile and easily taken away, having solid furniture like this, just solid supporting items that you physically touch, like a dining table, dining chair, a sitting room chair, added a level of comfort to people's lives. And I think we have really, really lost sight of that. It's like, just go and get the cheapest desk I can for my home office. I didn't do that, but it's easily done. Buy cheap. If it breaks, I know I can get another one. Instead of thinking, actually, do you know what? I'm going to buy the most expensive one I can with the intent that my child is going to have this, and maybe even their child's child. And there's something, but I guess it's the conscious or the modern consumer capitalist world we live in, exponential, double-digit, endless growth, where I can't just sell you one table. I need to sell you 50 tables over your lifetime. Otherwise, our business doesn't stack up. It's a big one.
Yeah, it is. And there's also a world of second-hand tables that we could choose instead of tables that have been made new as well.
Totally, which are probably 100 years old and will last for another 200 years. Whereas the one you get
isn't it incredible that just how well the old stuff lasts compared with anything we buy today? Our toasters and our jugs and our phones, that somehow it's just kind of not working slightly, and
after a couple of years
to get it repaired, so it just has to go to landfill.
We had a kettle do that a few years ago. We spent a lot of money on a kettle. I mean, it was partly it looked nice, and this was sort of before pre-purpose, I guess, when we were still double income, no kids. Let's buy a $200 kettle. It lasted less than the $20 kettle.
Yeah.
So you sort of go, well, that's just interesting. But why can't we have a kettle that lasts 100 years? Like, we have put, was it 2017? We put, some Japanese scientists landed a robot on an asteroid in outer space. It's like, okay, we have the technology for a small mechanical device to do that, but you can't make me a toaster or a kettle that lasts more than 3 years.
Well,
something's not right here.
Wants to.
Well, that's the thing. Is it the sin of omission or the sin of commission? It's like, could you do that? Well, maybe you should do that. I think it's the same in the world of building and construction. I guess coming from the UK, I look at these beautiful Roman villas that are 2,000 years old that structurally are still pretty sound, and they've got underfloor heating. And then you look at some of the modern housing we're putting up and you just go, and this is going to last 25 years. Again, why can't, surely, well, we do have the technology, we do have the capacity, we just don't have the will to build a house that could last 2,000 years today, because we want it to be easy to pull down. Yeah.
I have a real aversion to sending my broken stuff to landfill, and I also know that I can't send it to, you know, the Salvation Army, op shops, that kind of thing, because they don't want our junk either. Despite the fact that a lot of people send their junk and then they kind of know they think they can buy new stuff and feel virtuous. But I don't send them my junk, but I also can't put it in landfill. So what I do is I put a box of stuff on the street outside my house and I write on it, "This is broken," and it goes.
And it goes. That's interesting. Do they? Because I know in Auckland they have the organic day. I think it's called like organic collection day or something, where basically you can do that. It's one day a year. You put all your junk out on the street, and it's just like it's insane. Like people just driving around in big trucks, just stopping at every pile on a street. Do they do that in Wellington?
Not as far as I know, but people in my street have started following me, and we just put it out when we have it instead of on a special day. And it's very rarely that anything is left in the box.
Wow. That's super cool.
Very random, junky crap.
Well, was it one man's rubbish is another man's gold, isn't it? Yeah, maybe we should email Wellington and Christchurch city councils and say, hey, you need to talk to Auckland and get amongst it. Because the first time my wife was up there, she was like, why is everyone dumping stuff outside their house? And it's like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. They do this once a year. Same thing. Like most of it goes. Someone takes it. Yeah, that's a pretty cool idea. So I guess we're getting close to time. But so do you think you've always had a leaning towards wanting to do good? Like, you know, did you have this kind of wanting to do good from a really young age, or do you think it's kind of more blossomed as you've got into doing more good?
I guess I'd answer that in two ways. I think it must just be inbuilt programmed in us, because I don't think I was special in that respect. I think I was pretty selfish and self-absorbed as a kid, and pretty absorbed in what I could have as a young adult, and driven by wanting to do cool things and have money to do cool things and own cool things and have money for that. And somewhere there was just a point where I started to feel like there was a big gap. And I'd get to the end of a weekend having done really, really cool things with really, really cool people and going, yeah, but there must be something else. And that was when I started volunteering, and the volunteering started to show me that that's what makes the heart really happy, and looking for other ways to contribute. I definitely came from a family that was quite a service-focused family. My father was a firefighter, and you know, there was a real service thing in his family. And he also was just one of those people that would give and give and give and give of his time as a rugby referee, and he taught my netball teams, and he supported my brother through scouts, and you know, they were just always the parents that turned up to support, and then supported everything else that was going on as well. So I grew up around that, but I don't think that I had any stronger predisposition than anyone else to do good. I really just think it's in all of us. And the more that you do it, the more that you realize how good it feels, which was why I wanted to do the Good Registry and give people the chance who might not normally give to charity or think about what they're consuming, the chance to do that, and to start to realize that it feels really good and that maybe like more.
Nice. So exponential goodness. That's super cool. Lisa, thank you so much. She's just said, great chat, team. Thanks for the purpose and motivation this morning. Coming from Lisa, that's pretty cool, because like you are Mrs. Purpose as well. So Lisa, we need to get you on here as well. So get your people to talk to my people, get you on here. I think it's definitely the theme that I see. People want to do more good. They've been disconnected from the idea of doing good, because it's all about play your own game, like you say, like have good times, earn good money. That's a good life. Like, you're not going to be, society isn't going to go, oh, look what an awful person they are, they've got a good job with a good house. It's like that's what we're all kind of aspiring to, but for many people that's not what they're looking for, and you get on that treadmill. And I think our old mate Gandhi summed it up really well. The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. And I think if people are purpose curious, I would suggest it would be interesting. Like go and have a look at the Good Registry, see which charity kind of piques your interest, because that will give you an insight as to, okay, well, that I'm interested in maybe giving some money to that. Why that one? And I think that's a really interesting part for people just to consider. It's like if I could only support one charity, which would it be, and then why? Why do I care about that thing? And then see what the disconnect is between the day-to-day life that you're living and the good that you would like to see happen. And in many cases, the sort of cognitive dissonance of I'm actually working in an industry that's creating more of the problem over here. Okay, maybe I could step out of that. And yeah, there's so much to unpack.
And
on
also
that
just thinking about what are ways that you could build into your life to contribute to the things that you care about. Doesn't have to be through a massive job change.
No.
And you could give it to them through the Good Registry, or you could pick up the phone and see if they need volunteers, or you could just do a social media post that says, hey, I just found out about this awesome charity and this is the good that they do. There's lots of ways to support good causes that don't involve time if you don't have time, or don't involve money if you don't have money. There's always a way.
Yep, totally. So just a couple of questions, I guess, to sort of finish off. So for the charities, how do they get on board? Are you full at the minute? Are you looking for more charities? Because I guess we're not short of charities in New Zealand, are we? So you're full at the minute. So apologies to any charities listening who are like, oh yeah, we want to get amongst that. When the charities were coming on, like did you have any kind of screening mechanisms to ensure that they weren't Tim's charity and actually I'm just collecting money to get presents for my daughter for her Christmas present?
Because we've kept it at 65 charity partners, it means that we can have a reasonable amount of visibility, but we're not digging down right into their annual accounts. But we are only selecting charity partners that are registered charities in New Zealand, so they need to meet all of the requirements of that. Cool. And with 65, we can keep a bit of an eye on what they're up to, and we'll notice if they're in the media for doing anything that they shouldn't do. And really what we've looked for across the charities is to give the breadth and to make sure that the right mix of charities is there for people when they have a gift card to redeem or a birthday that they would like to pledge with a registry, that they can find a cause that is close to their heart. We don't want to overwhelm people with choice.
I was going to say,
want 50
but
types.
without overwhelming, because with too many options, you don't make any choices. So keeping that fine balance. Super cool.
So there are 5 charities that might help children, or 5 charities that might help the environment. Better than 50.
Nice. So what's been the hardest part of the journey for you so far? Because I mean, doing good is hard on many levels. It's something I hear from a lot of people in your kind of situation. You've left your corporate career. You could have stayed with good money, good opportunities. I mean, presumably you could have hopped to any other large corporate or, some kind of move within Z, big, well-recognized company in New Zealand. But you've kind of gone, nah, there's another path here. And doing good is not easy, because if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. And, you're crafting a brand new model, a new concept. So, what's been the hardest thing for you starting out on the Good Registry?
I guess one of the hardest things is asking people for stuff, because we are running on an absolute shoestring. We've had to go and ask for free technology partners and free marketing partners and free accounting partners. And, I always just kind of have a real about asking. And we're at this point at the moment where we could do so much more if we had partners that wanted to contribute funding so that we could do more marketing and improve the technology. And I still need to work on my skills of making the ask and making the ask compelling. And feeling comfortable that it's okay to ask, because it's quite a Kiwi thing, and I know this is one of your areas of real expertise, Tim, is us overcoming the stories that we've had that hold us back from growth.
Massively. Yep. And I think I was running a session last night with the Impact Hub based in the mighty Waikato, talking about, sales mindset for impact-driven entrepreneurs. And, if you don't ask, it's a no. And if it's a no, you don't go and make some impact. So what's more important? You may be getting a no, but you don't know yet because you actually haven't asked, or you not being able to deliver the mission that you've clearly identified is a good mission that needs to be there. So yeah, we're sort of slightly advanced chimpanzees on a floating disc in the universe trying to work out what this shit's all about. It's interesting.
And I just need to get more gutsy about asking, and if people say no, saying it's a no for now, and I'm going to come back.
Yeah, can I call you back in 3 months and see if it's changed? Yeah, sure. Cool. Thank you so much. Yeah. So final words of wisdom before we just tick over the 60-minute mark. Advice to other sort of, I guess, burgeoning corporate refugees they're kind of like, yeah, do you know what? I've done all right. I've got a bit of cash saved up. I kind of want to go and do some more good in the world. What would be your pearl of wisdom to the Christine who was sitting in their corporate job going, I want to go and start a social impact business?
Follow your heart. It will all work out somehow. And it's worth it. Like there are a lot of sacrifices involved from the comfort of the secure job and the secure paycheck, and everything else that comes as a result of it is worth way much more than that secure job and the secure paycheck.
I would wholeheartedly agree with that. Clearly, you can't put a price on your mental state of mind from connecting to the authentic version of you and doing good in the world. Yeah, what a crazy idea. Live in a lot, which is why I think we've got such a mental health crisis. It's glorious in how absurdly awful this statistic is. But a YouGov survey from the British government about 2018, I think it was about 43% of British workers felt their job provided them with no meaning, and in fact, they felt their job was more than likely contributing to destroying the planet. And then we wonder why people are going a little bit bonkers. It's like I'm surprised more people.
They think that they've got a mortgage to pay and children to put through school, and part of that story might be true, and it's worth taking the time to step back and look at our lives and what we want to contribute and how we can get there, and whether we're really as trapped as we think we are.
What a great phrase to finish off on. Hey, Christine, thank you so much. If people want to get hold of you, clearly the Good Registry, like I said, it's Mother's Day in 2 days' time. Ladies and gentlemen, get amongst it. Just go and buy something. I'm going to go after this. I'm hanging up this call. I'm going to go and buy something for my mum. It'll be interesting to see her reaction. I think she'll be okay. Maybe get the same for my daughter, for my wife. We'll see what she has to say, unless she won't be listening in on this.
See what charities they choose to donate to with their good gift cards.
It'll be interesting.
What the reasons are for choosing those charities.
I'll go check it out. But Christine, thank you so much for being on here. Thank you so much for the amazing mahi that you are doing. Keep it up. If people want to help and get involved, go to the Good Registry. They'll find you. And they can reach out to you. But thank you so much. You're a legend.
Thank you. Always fun to chat with you, Tim.
We'll do it again. Awesome. Cheers, people. I'm just going to kick Christine out of the studio. You can stay in the green room, though. I'll pop back in a minute. We'll say goodbye. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Lisa, thank you so much for your kind comments. That was PFPTV number 6. I don't think I've got one next week because I've got a workshop I'm running. But I believe maybe the week after that, we've got Katie Patrick lined up. Katie Patrick is another absolute legendess. Here we go. I'll grab a copy of her book. There we go. How to Save the World by Katie Patrick. Go and get yourself a copy before next week. Come and ask some great questions. But hopefully you're enjoying these PFP TVs. Thank you for tuning in. Give me some comments. Give me some feedback. Let me know how it goes. If not, have a great purposeful weekend. Have a great Mother's Day to all the mothers. Peace out. See you next time. Laters.